You know those stories that sound like the setup to a joke, but then you find out they're 100% real? Well, buckle up because today we're diving into one of the most bizarre, absolutely mind-bending legal cases I think I've ever heard of. I mean, it's a question that seems to just break the very foundation of how we think about the law. It's a total paradox, right? How can you be the one asking for money and also the one who's supposed to pay it? It just doesn't make sense. Well, one guy decided to find out. And we're not talking about small change here. The amount he was demanding from himself was a jaw-dropping $5 million. Yeah. So this wasn't just some quirky little thought experiment. No, this was a serious, high-stakes legal filing that actually ended up in a real courtroom. Okay, so how in the world did this even happen? Let's break down the specifics of this truly, truly one-of-a-kind lawsuit. So let's set the scene. The year is 1995, and our main character, or I guess our main character and the villain of the story, is a man named Robert Brock. Now, at the time, Brock was an inmate at a correctional center, and trust me, that detail is going to be very important later. And this right here, this just perfectly sums up the core absurdity of the situation. I mean, when you look at the actual court filing, you see the exact same name on both sides of the verses. The plaintiff, the person filing the complaint, Robert Brock. And the defendant, the person being accused, yep, also Robert Brock. All right, so we've got the who and the what, but the biggest question is still just hanging there. Why? What could possibly be the legal logic behind suing yourself for millions of dollars? And this, my friends, is where the story goes from just being strange to being genuinely fascinating. See, Brock didn't just scribble some nonsense on a piece of paper. Oh no, he actually built a real legal argument to back up his claim. What's wild is the step-by-step logic he used. So here's his argument. First, he said by drinking alcohol, he violated his own religious beliefs. Okay. Step 2, because of that, he ended up committing a crime and getting arrested. Step 3, he claimed that by getting himself arrested, he had violated his own civil rights. And the grand finale, step 4, therefore, he owed himself $5 million for all the pain and suffering he caused himself. I mean, it is a completely wild chain of reasoning, but you gotta admit, it has a certain strange structure to it. Now, if you think that was the strangest part of the story, oh, just you wait, because the real motive behind this whole thing reveals a layer of thinking that is, well, it's either pure genius or totally absurd, or, maybe a little bit of both. But this is the logical dead end, isn't it? I mean, think about it. Even if a judge somehow went along with this and said, yep, Brock, you owe yourself $5 million, how would he even pay it? Robert Brock, the inmate, had zero income. He couldn't pay Robert Brock, the victim, a single penny. So what was the point of it all? And there it is. That was the master plan all along. This lawsuit, it was never really about Robert Brock versus Robert Brock. It was a Trojan horse designed to go after a much, much bigger target. So his argument went something like this. Since he was a ward of the state, and since he had no money to pay the judgment against himself, that responsibility should fall to his caretakers, which was, you guessed it, the state. So basically, he was suing himself as a backdoor way to force the government to cut him a check. So how did the legal system react to this, let's call it, incredibly creative line of reasoning? What did the actual judge in this case have to say about all this? Well, probably not surprisingly, the judge dismissed the case. He actually used the word ludicative, which is just a great way of saying it was both ludicrous and a total waste of the court's time. So that's it. Case closed, right? Well, not quite. Because in the exact same ruling, the judge gave Brock a totally unexpected compliment. Even while he was throwing the case out, he actually praised the prisoner for his, quote, innovative approach. And that's pretty much the final verdict. Brock didn't get his $5 million. The state was never on the hook for it. But he did manage to create a legal paradox so unique that the judge actually had to acknowledge the sheer audacity and, frankly, the creativity of it all. So what's the takeaway here? Well, the case of Robert Brock versus Robert Brock, it didn't change any laws, but it for sure left its mark on legal folklore. And hey, for anyone out there thinking, there's no way this is real, here's the proof. This is not just some urban legend. It is a real, verifiable case. You can look it up yourself, Brock versus the Southern Desert Correctional Center.
It is a permanent and very peculiar footnote in the history of American law.
So, while it was a total failure in court, the case kind of pushes us to think about the whole point of our legal system. It's designed to be open to everyone. But what happens when someone uses that openness to test the absolute limits of logic itself? It really makes you wonder, where's the line between a citizen's right to have their day in court and, well, a work of absurdist genius that challenges the whole system from the inside out?